Hi, I'm Lucy the Librarian, and this video is part of a series where we try to inspire students and teachers and create confidence that they will need to make something beautiful and meaningful. The tool that we'll be using is called Cuttle. It's the same tool that these students use to create these beautiful layered laser cut maps of where all the covered bridges are and were in their community. You can read more about it on our blog posts or in the description of this video. Why Cuttle? Cuttle is a tool for creativity and innovation. It creates the vector files that you'll need to use with a digital cutter like a Cricut or a laser cutter or even a 3D printer. It works on Chromebooks. The company has signed several student data privacy agreements and they've made their editor free for K-12 schools. So let's get started with the same skill building sprint that I use with these students to create their confidence with using Cuttle. Here's what we're going to make. By the end of this skill builder, you'll be able to select and resize shapes. You'll be able to set strokes, fill colors, rename and reorder and expand layers, align and arrange shapes, add regular and connected text, use Boolean union and Boolean difference, and also save, title, and export your SVG file. An SVG file is a different type of graphic than you might be used to. Most graphics that you might have used that are PNGs or JPEGs are made out of tiny little pixels. And if you expanded that and enlarged it, you would see that it would become very granular. An SVG file is a vector file, and it contains mathematical information that can be used to control the tools in your makerspace, like laser cutters or Cricut cutters. They have other advantages too. To create your SVG files with Cuttle, create an account at cuttle.xyz. Once you've logged in, look for the big plus sign that says New Blank Project. And go ahead and click on that. And here's the Cuttle interface. On the left-hand side, we're going to click on Browse All Shapes. And then we're going to pick one of these shapes. I'm going to suggest maybe the award seal, but you can pick a different one. You can drop it, you drag it over and drop it. And notice that it's only 1 inch by 1 inch. This one's called Star 2. I'm going to make it 2.5 inches. So I just click in this area where it says 1 inch and I type in 2.5. And it should have also changed the horizontal and vertical size to 2.5 inches. Now you will see on the right hand side areas where there are some parameters. The first one is the name, and this is called Star 2, but we're going to double click on the name Star 2 and I'm going to change it to tag bottom layer. So now you have browsed all shapes, you've dragged out a shape, you've resized it, and you renamed it to tag bottom layer. Now we're going to learn about layers, fill, and stroke, and hairline. The first thing we'll do is to duplicate it, rename the layer, and set the fill and stroke to the same color. And then we're going to do that again for the second shape. Let's give that a try. So we have a shape here, and it's called tag bottom layer. I'm going to right click, and I'm right clicking now, and I am going to go to duplicate. Now I have two shapes, but I want one of them to be called tag top layer. So I'll take this shape that I just made, double click on the name, and change it to tag top layer. Renaming is going to be so important in this process. So let's take the tag top layer, and if you scroll down, you'll see some parameters. Towards the bottom, you will see fill, and mine does not have a box there. I mean a check mark in the box. I'm going to click on that. It made it black. Didn't really like black, it's not my favorite color. So I'm going to come to the colored square underneath fill, and I'm going to pick red. Finally, you'll notice that stroke is also checked on mine, probably on yours also. And I'm going to change the stroke color to red also. So if my fill and my stroke are the same color, that's going to really help my Cricut cutter, my laser cutter, or whatever machine I'm going to be able to know what to cut. We'll talk about that more later. You'll also notice hairline. That check mark should be on at this point. That's going to make the stroke line, which is the border, sometimes we call it border in other software, so thin that the laser cutter will understand that they should just cut along that thin line, that thin hairline. Let's repeat this process, but this time for bottom layer 2. And we're going to click on fill, and we're going to change the color. I'm going to pick blue for mine, and I want the stroke to also be blue with a check mark on hairline. Now you're probably wondering, nothing happened. That's because these are identical and one's laying on top of the other. So an important skill is to be able to drag different layers on top of each other. I'm going to click on tag bottom layer and drag it on top. And honestly, if I clicked on this layer, I could see that there really are two layers. But for now, I'm going to leave them stacked on top of each other. What we just did was to duplicate the layer. We renamed it, and we set the fill and stroke to the same color. And finally, we did that again to the second shape, but we chose a different color. So next, we're going to learn to work with these layers. We're going to select and unselect layers, duplicate the top layer, change its size, and then we're going to select the two top layers and align them evenly. Let's give that a try. So I want to click on the top layer, and I'm going to right click on it and hit duplicate. Now I have top layer and top layer 1. I'm just going to change one of them to top layer 2. Now you can rearrange these by clicking on one and just dragging it up. Oh, what I probably should do is change the color of top layer 2, and I am going to change the color to yellow on that one. And don't forget the stroke. will also be yellow. Now I'm going to put top layer 2 on top. And I want to change the size of top layer 2. So make sure it's selected over here in the layer function and click where you have 2.5 inches and make that 2 inches. And the reason you don't see it is because the bottom layer is on top. Let's move the bottom layer down. Now we have a bottom layer at the bottom, and we have 2 top layers, 1 and 2. And the top layer is 2 inches. And I'm going to have you just drag it out just so you can really see that you have 3 layers there. And now we're going to drag the bottom layer out for a minute. And we're going to want to select the 2 top layers. I have them both selected. Once I have 2 shapes or layers selected, these little handles come up. And these are align handles. And I want to align these 2 up perfectly. So I'm going to select them both. I tend to use the Shift key. And when they're both selected, they're highlighted. Some people use the Control key. Depends on your interface. Once they're both selected, I'm going to align it in the middle here. Now they're both in the middle of each other and in the middle here. And now they're perfectly aligned. So now you know how to select and unselect layers. You've duplicated the top layer, you've changed its size, and you've selected the 2 top layers, and you have aligned them evenly. So now we're going to learn how to cut the middle out of our shape. The term that we use is Boolean difference. Some software calls it Boolean subtract, but in Cuttle they call it Boolean difference. And later we'll learn the union modifier also. So the first thing we're going to do is select the 2 layers, and then we're going to select modify Boolean difference, and then create a group that will create a group that removes the inside layer. Let me show you how this works. So I'm going to hold Shift, select my 2 top layers, and then I'm going to go to modify, and I'm scroll down till I find Boolean difference. Notice Boolean union, we'll work on that later. Boolean difference, I'll click on it, and voila, the middle disappears. Take a look on the right side. It created a group with both the layers inside. Now we're going to get comfortable with working with layers with some functions that I think are key to success with working with Cuttle. Collapsing, expanding, and renaming your layers. We're going to rename our group to layer group 3. We're going to work with collapsing, expanding, and collapsing. First I'll do it, and then I'd like you to do it. To rename it, click on the group, and you can double click on it. And I'm going to call this top layer group. And I'm going to put 3 in there because it's the 3rd layer. So it's easier to identify. And then once I rename it, notice that there is a little downward pointing triangle here. When I click on that, it collapses the layers. They're still there, but you can't see them. It made the triangle turn to the right. Click on that, open it, expand it. So now you can see the layers and then collapse it. I think it's really important to practice this a few times with your students and keep reminding them to collapse their layers. They're less likely to get into trouble with dragging things in the wrong place. So now I have my top bottom layer and I have my top layer group 3. And even though it's the first group, it's the third layer, so I thought we'd call it group 3. Expand, collapse. Now we're going to add some connected text. We'll browse all shapes. We'll add the connected text. We'll make it your name, resizing it and moving it so that it overlaps on both sides. And I'll show you a little bit about playing with fonts. So when you see all shapes, and in case you don't, let me show you what might have happened. You'll want to browse all shapes, not just hit text. So we'll go to browse all shapes. You'll see all shapes. Scroll down until you find connected text. Click on that and drag it onto the canvas. Obviously, your name is not connected. Move over to the right side and you see where the layers are on top. You have a text layer now, but if that's highlighted, you'll go down and where the text is, click on the word connected. Click on the word connected and erase it and put your name in there. One of the things that you can do is you can play with the fonts. I'm going to suggest keeping Pacifico right now. That's a nice thick font. And when we have more time, you guys can play more. Notice that you can connect the dots and the letters, but if you want, you can just not connect those or just connect the dots. But I am going to connect the dots and letters. And there are a few more options if you click down here that you can play with, but we're not going to go over all those now. Capitalize and other options. And the size. Notice that my cursor changed to a double-sided arrow and my text changes when I change the size. That's one way to change it. You can also come up to your text box and use the arrows to change it, the size there. I'm going to click in the middle and drag that so that it touches both sides. That's a little bit bigger than I want, so I'm going to make it a little smaller here. But I do want it to touch both sides. And you're going to notice that it's hardly touching the L up there, but the E is overlapping a little bit. I think I want the L to touch a little bit more. And that's going to connect these when they get cut out. So this is going to have 4 points of connection. It's the way I did it now. So now you know how to browse the shapes, add connected text, make it your name or a different name, resizing it. You could play with the fonts and move it so it overlaps on both sides. Go ahead and give that a try. Now we're going to learn how to take our connected text and weld it, also known as Boolean union, with the outside of our top layer. We're going to select the text and the top layer group. Notice that my top layer group is collapsed. That really makes a difference. Well, I'll show you that in a minute. Then we're going to go to Modify, choose Boolean Weld, and voila, you will have a layer that's merged text and the outer ring. Let me show you how that works. I click on text, hold my shift down or control depending on your software. So make sure that the text and the top layer group are selected. I go to modify and I choose Boolean Union, and voila, both those layers are selected. Notice on the right hand side I have a new group with two sublayers. Remember the collapse and expand? I can collapse it, I can expand it, and I am going to double click on that and rename it to top layer group 4. And again, if I wanted to expand these all the way out, I can see that group 4 is made up of text and group 3 is made up of layer 2 and layer 1. But I think it's best to close these up and collapse them so you don't accidentally move the layers inside. I can move this layer on the bottom, I can move it on top, but when I do it with the layers expanding, it's easy to accidentally move a layer inside a subgroup. Students do that all the time. So keep reminding them that they need to collapse their layers in order to stay out of trouble. And remember, undo is your friend if you accidentally do it. Now we'll show you how to save, title, and export your SVG files. Pretty simple. We find file. Oh, wait a minute. Let's title it. Frequently forgotten step. I'm going to call this my ID tag. Now we're going to go to File. By the way, how I did that was I just double clicked on the word untitled. We're going to go to File, Export SVG, ID tag, Component A. Don't worry about the fact that it says Component A. We'll learn more about that in the advanced workshop. Notice that it does allow you to export it for Glowforge or Cricut, and that optimizes it for the particular machine that you have. But I usually just use standard SVG. There might be times where you might want to experiment with one of these other options in your particular machine. And I hit download SVG, and now the ID tag is in my download folder. In the next video or section, I'm going to show you a classroom workflow for getting your files to your cutting tools that everybody loves. They'll save you so many headaches. Along with describing the workflow to get the files from Cuttle to your machine, we're going to work on different ways to add images to your creations, but you're going to need the free version of Cuttle or the paid version. But I assume if you're a school, you'll want to try to sign up for the free version so that we can work with images and some of the more advanced features. So don't delay, check with your IT department and fill out the form to get Cuttle for free for your school.